there, fantasy owners. LTC Fantasy here. Not sure if you're chiming in watching via YouTube or listening via podcast, but really do appreciate the watch or listen no matter how you're streaming the episode here. Today's our Week 11 strategy episode, so we're going to break down the schedule, hopefully find you that advantage to suggest players to help strengthen your roster and get you that win in Week 11. Some things to note this week. 8 teams have a 2-game week this week. Them being Buffalo, Chicago, Minnesota, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, San Jose, Seattle, and Toronto. So quarter of the league only has 2-game weeks. And then there's 24 teams that have 3 games this week. No 4-game teams. The schedule this week is about as balanced as you can get, with no games Saturday and Sunday, with it being Christmas break, of course. So Monday there's 8 games, Tuesday 8 games, Wednesday 7 games, Thursday 8 games, so all 7-8 range, and then they finish it off with a heavier Friday, having 13 games there. So with such a balanced schedule, where do you really find the advantage for your team this week? Well, there's a couple different ways to do it. One is you man games played, obviously. You pick up somebody that plays Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, then drop them and get somebody that plays Thursday and Friday. That way you get 2 games early on, 2 games at the back end, and 1 slot you can get, or even a couple slots depending how many player adds you have. Get a couple of 4 gamers in there when you combine them together. So with that, we will cover Columbus and St. Louis first, because they do play Monday and Tuesday early on this week. They also play Friday, but Friday might be a non-factor depending how you're strategizing this week. And then we'll cover Anaheim, New Jersey, and Tampa Bay, because they play Tuesday and Wednesday, so they get a couple games in the first half of the week. And then we'll cover all the teams that play Thursday and Friday. We'll break them down into teams that play Monday, Thursday, and Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. That way there's a slew of players you can pick for the last couple days of the week, and hopefully give you that little bit of an advantage there. So basically we'll get right into it. Some D-men that play Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, of course, but Monday, Tuesday is the main part of it. And on the back end, look at Marcus Bjork from Columbus there. Only owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, is playing that top pairing, top power play unit there. And he has 2 points the last 7 games, so not the greatest offense, but he has thrown 8 hits and 14 blocks. So he will get you some hits and blocks. Just the fact that he does get first unit power play time, first pairing minutes there, you might be able to squeeze some value out of him, especially in deeper leagues. Another one from Columbus is Vladislav Gavrikov, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues, playing up in the top pairing and getting second unit power play time. He has 5 points the last 9 games, so a little over half point per game, which is pretty nice there. 10 hits and 17 blocks in those 9 games. So similar to Bjork, he does get you your hits and blocks. Little bit better offense of late, but you got to remember he's getting second unit power play time compared to first unit, so that might offset a bit. Again, more of a deeper league play, but kind of limited options in the first part of this week. Going over to St. Louis, this is probably, if you can fit him in on your roster, the best one of the bunch is Torrey Krug, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, playing second pairing and top power play unit there. And he has 4 points the last 8 games, so half point per game. 24 shots on goal though, so fires a lot of pucks on net. 11 hits and 14 blocks, so also gets you some hits and blocks in there. His offense is not quite up to Krug's snuff this year overall, but we do know he can produce. He is chipping in other categories. This is probably the one where you're going to get the most value early on in the week, hence his higher ownership, so it's only if you can fit him in there. Another one from St. Louis to consider is Colton Parayko, owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues, plays in that top pairing in St. Louis there. He has 4 points the last 8 games, so half point per game, pretty good for him. Is a +4 in those 8 games, so nice plus minus. 13 hits and 13 blocks. with him, the value really is in the hits and blocks department. The fact that he's chipping in a little bit of offense of late should just be considered a bonus. Don't rely on him in points, but could get you a little bit of advantage in the hits and blocks department early on in the week there. So now we'll move along to some forwards that play Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. The big part is Monday, Tuesday again. But up front, look at Boone Jenner from Columbus there. Listed as a center, owned in 45% of Yahoo leagues. Plays that top line, top power play unit there. And he has 7 points the last 9 games with 20 shots on goal and 15 hits. Overall, he's pretty decent and all around in the numerous categories there. Not great, but good anyways. So he should be a pretty decent streaming option, especially with getting 2 games early on there. Another one from Columbus to consider is Jack Roslovich. Listed as a center, owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. Centering that second line, up on the top power play unit. He's been pretty good of late. He has 8 points his last 8 games with 7 blocks in there. So really nice block total for a forward. He has been very streaky this year. So with streakiness comes risk/reward. But he seems to have been coming into his own of late. So it could be a decent option, especially with getting those 2 games early on, where I do see an advantage for some fantasy owners there. Over in St. Louis, look at Josh Leavo. Listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, playing up on that top line and second power play unit, and he has 3 points the last 5 games, so not bad, not great production there. 9 shots on goal and 5 hits. He has okay offense, but he is kind of up and down that lineup and kind of minutes usage, etc. So I would leave him only for a real deep league, depending on what options you have there. Another one in St. Louis is Ryan O'Reilly, listed as a center, owned in 40% of Yahoo leagues. Plays that top line, second power play unit there, and he has 7 points the last 10 games in 18 shots on goal in those 10 games, so decent amount of shots. The big thing is 90 face-off wins in those 10 games. That's crazy amount of face-off wins there. So he does have okay offense, and as you can see, he wins a ton of face-offs. So in certain formats, especially where face-off wins are concerned, he could bring you some value early on this week. Another one in St. Louis is Braden Shen. Listed as center left winger, owned in 58% of Yahoo leagues. Playing second line, top power play unit there. And he has 5 points in the last 6 games, so pretty good. Damn near a point per game there. 12 shots on goal and 9 hits. He has been streaky this year, but better of late, a little more consistent. Last year he was fairly consistent, so hopefully this is a sign that his consistency is coming back there, and he should hopefully provide some value for you early on this week. The last one in St. Louis is Robert Thomas. Listed as a center, owned in 55% of Yahoo leagues. Centering that third line right now, top power play unit. And he has 9 points the last 10 games played. Believe he already got an assist early on. That game's going on against Calgary as I'm recording this. So he is right around a point per game player. And with that, you'll definitely get value from a point per game player in most formats there. Before we move on to the next segment, if you are watching, would like to ask you to subscribe. Hope you're finding value out of these episodes. We're really trying to grow this channel, hopefully gain some support from you. And yeah, there's my little plug, and we'll get on to the next section there. So now some Demon that play Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, Tuesday, Wednesday is kind of where the advantage is. Get a couple games early on. We'll start off in Anaheim. Look at Cam Fowler there. Owned in 18% of Yahoo leagues. Plays that top pairing, top power play unit there. And he has 6 points the last 10 games played. So over half a point per game. He has slowed down a little bit of late, but he was on kind of an unrealistic tear there for a few weeks there. But he's still a pretty decent offensive option. And with getting a couple games early on, should provide some value for you. Another one's over in New Jersey. Look at Jonas Singenthaler. Owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that top pairing. And he has 4 points the last 5 games, which is really good for him. Not known for his offense. And also 11 blocks in there. He has really nice block numbers overall. That's where you're going to get some value. And he does have an uptick in offense, especially of late. Not known for his offense, but he's getting a little bit more as he's getting first pairing minutes there. So he should be a decent add in certain formats there for you. Going over to Tampa Bay, look at Erik Cernak. Owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues. Playing that second pairing there, and he has 4 points the last 7 games. And in those 7 games, he's a plus 10 with 26 hits and 12 blocks. So with Cernak, you know, he's a burly bugger there. His value is in the hits and blocks department. That's where he's really going to help you out there. Any offense should be considered a bonus, but he is chipping in a little bit of late. So hopefully that spreads in if you do decide to stream him early next week there. And the last one in Tampa is Ian Cole, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that second pairing there. And he has 5 points his last 7 games there, so really nice production. 13 shots on goal, 13 hits, and 10 blocks. So as you can see, he's pretty well-rounded. Not known for his offense, should say other categories. He's pretty well-rounded. He does chip in some offense, especially of late there. So with that, you might be able to squeeze some value out of him, again, with getting those 2 games early on in the week there. So now we'll move along to some forwards that play Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, really focusing on that Tuesday, Wednesday, early part of the week there. Again, starting Anaheim, look at Mason McTavish, listed as center left winger, owned in 12% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the third line and top power play unit there. And he has 5 points the last 7 games, so pretty nice production. 17 shots on goal, 9 hits, and 6 blocks. He's really kind of stepped up his kind of hits and blocks, so adding a little bit more value where he'll be a little bit more fantasy relevant more than just in scoring formats. The kid does have a ton of offensive talent. He does play in Anaheim. That hurts a little bit, but being early on in the week as a streaming option should hopefully get some value out of him. Over in New Jersey, look at Dawson Mercer, listed as center right winger, owned in 21% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that second line and up on the top power play unit there. And he has 10 points his last 12 games, so darn near a point per game player. Plus 6 in those 12 games, so that's pretty nice plus minus over that stretch. 26 shots on goal and 9 blocks. He's been really good on that Hughes line, been there for a while, and with that, he's getting a nice uptick on offense. Up on the top power play unit there now. He was on the second unit for the longest time. So with that, he's gaining opportunity and hopefully should get some value out of him. Over in Tampa Bay, look at Brandon Hagel, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, up on the top line, top power play unit. And he currently is on a 4-game point streak. He's put up 6 points in those 4 games with 8 shots on goal and 4 blocks. So averaging a block per game for a forward's really, really nice. Won't keep that up, but he's on a tear of late, and he's on that top line in Tampa and that top unit power play line. So you got to think of the stars that are around him: Point, Kucherov, Stamkos, etc. He should be able to get some piggyback points and should bring you some value next week. Next one is Alex Killorn, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues there. Plays second line, second power play unit, and he has 9 points the last 12 games, so pretty nice production with 20 shots on goal. He's been fairly consistent, especially the last month or so there. And with that kind of production once every 2 games, you should definitely get some value out of him, getting a couple games early on this week. Next one's Nicholas Paul, listed as center left winger, owned in 45% of Yahoo leagues. Plays second line, second power play unit there. And he has 9 points his last 11 games, so pretty nice production again. 22 shots on goal, 16 hits, and 8 blocks. So he is pretty well rounded, and offensively he's really kind of taken off this year playing with Stamkos and that. So in a well-rounded Cats league, you should definitely get some value out of him. Last one is Anthony Chiarelli, listed as center left winger, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues, centering that third line, and he has 6 points the last 6 games, and in those 6 games he's been +5, 20 shots on goal, 5 blocks. He's been really good since getting off of IR there. And with that, hopefully that carries into next week for you, especially in deeper leagues where he should be available. Should be able to squeeze some value out of him. Should mention Corey Perry too. He's listed as a right winger, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues. He's been really streaky this year, but better of late. He has, I believe, 8 points the last 8 games. He is pretty power play dependent, though. 5 of those 8 points are on the power play. So now we'll move on to some D-men that play Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Again, focusing on the Thursday, Friday for the back end of the week there. But look at Alex Romanov from the Islanders there. On the third pairing, owning 17% of Yahoo leagues. He has 2 points the last 3 games, so not a big stretch, but a little bit of offense of late. 8 hits and 7 blocks in those 3 games. As you can tell with those kind of hits and blocks numbers, should be able to figure out where his value is. It is in the hits and blocks. Don't rely on him necessarily for offense, but he will chip in a little bit. As you can see, 2 points the last 3, but might be on a stretch 4 or 5 games without a point, but will get you some value in certain formats there. Going over to Vancouver, look at Oliver Ekman-Larsson, owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top pairing second power play unit there, and he has 7 points the last 10 games, so pretty nice production there. 18 shots on goal and 12 hits. He is kind of streaky, but he seems to be on a fairly decent streak right now. So in deeper leagues especially, you should be able to find some value. Depending on your standard leagues, kind of how many games played and what cats are counted, you might be able to also get some value out of them. Another one in Vancouver is Luke Shen, owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues, plays in the second pairing there. He only has 1 point the last 12 games, so don't count on him for offense, obviously. But in those 12 games, 49 hits, so he's averaging over 4 hits a game over that stretch, and 24 blocks, so also over 2 blocks a game there. So as you can see, there's a ton of value from him in the hits and blocks department. So if you're in a Cats league, that's where you're definitely going to find some value out of him. His offense is very limited, but he can be fairly valuable in certain formats. And with getting back-to-back games towards the end of the week, could kind of be the one that kind of squeaks it out for you. Next one's Dmitry Orlov over in Washington, owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues. Plays that second pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 3 points the last 3 games there. And in those 3 games, he's +2, 13 shots on goal, 5 hits, and 4 blocks. So he's kind of contributing everywhere since coming off of IR. So he should hopefully be a fairly decent streamer for you. So now we'll move on to some forwards that play Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Again, kind of focusing on that Thursday, Friday bunch. But he will help you out them Monday if you do get him early enough there. Start off in Boston. Look at David Krejci, listed as a center, owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the second line, second power play unit. And he's been decent for a while. 10 points his last 10 games there. 20 shots on goal and 7 blocks. So he is pretty good all around in most categories. So he should be a fairly safe, pretty good streamer in most formats. Another one in Boston's Pavel Zacha, listed as center, left wing, and right wing. Do like that you can put him in any forward slot, especially with the balanced schedule. Might work out for you there. Only owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues. Plays that second line, second power play unit also. And he has 7 points the last 9 games there. +4 in those 9 games. And 12 hits. So he has been inconsistent, so there is some risk, but he's been a lot better of late. And the fact that he's versatile, where you can play him either center, left wing, or right wing, does add some value, so you might be able to get some extra value out of him anyways. Another one in Boston is Jake DeBrusk, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the second line and up on the top power play unit there. He has 6 points the last 5 games, so over a point per game, 12 shots on goal, 18 hits, and 4 blocks. So he's been throwing the body around, getting you some blocks in there. Pretty good offensively of late. He does kind of go on hot and cold spells, so there's a little bit of risk there. But if he's getting you value in other categories, like the 18 hits in those games, etc., should be an okay streamer for you. Next one's Taylor Hall over in Boston, listed as a left winger, owned in 61% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the third line and second power play unit. He's been pretty good. 10 points the last 8 games, so well over a point per game there. +4 in there. 31 shots on goal. Have to mention 5 blocks. He's not known as kind of especially a defensive specialist by any means, but getting 5 blocks, he's chipping in a little bit in there to add a little bit of value. But he's been really good offensively of late. That's where you're going to get the most value out of a player like Hall. And with having a couple games at the back end of the week, that could be what kind of gets you over the hump there. Last one in Boston's Charlie Coyle, listed as a center, only owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues, centering that third line on the second power play unit there. And he has 5 points his last 5 games with 8 shots on goal. He's on a bit of a run of late. He can be streaky, but with this run that he's on, in your deeper leagues, you could be able to squeeze some value out of him. Over for the Islanders, look at Josh Bailey, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line, second power play unit there, and he has 4 points the last 4 games. With that, he's on a nice little run right now, but he is pretty inconsistent. So with that, he is streaky, so I'd leave it more for your deep leagues, but definitely an option for you. Over for Vancouver, look at Andrei Kuzmenko, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 46% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line there, and he has 15 points the last 12 games. So really hot. He can provide really good offense, as you can see in that stretch. A lot of them are multi-point games. So you're going to love him for those multi-point games, but he might toss a bagel the next game. But with that offensive upside, definitely should hopefully get some value out of him. Another one for Vancouver is Ilya Mikheyev, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that second line, second power play unit there, and he has 8 points the last 12 games with 25 shots on goal. He is okay offense, gets you a fair amount of shots on goal, so in your deeper leagues, that's where you're going to squeeze some value out of him. Hopefully he's still an option in there for you. Another one in Vancouver is Connor Garland, listed as center right winger, owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues, playing third line, second power play unit there. Sorry, lost my spot in my notebook. He has 3 points the last 4 games with 15 shots on goal. He is really streaky, so again, streaky does bring risk, but in your deep leagues, should hopefully get some value out of him there. Going over to Washington, look at Dylan Strome, listed as center right winger, owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues, plays top line, top power play unit there, and he has 6 points the last 7 games with 16 shots on goal. He's been more consistent of late, recently, and he is on Ovi's line. When you're on Ovi's line, all you got to do is feed him the puck, and hopefully he puts the biscuit in the basket. So there's a good chance at some piggyback points there. That's where you might get some added value out of him. Another one in Washington is Sonny Milano, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that second line, second power play unit there, and he has 4 points the last 6 games, so not bad, not great offense, and 10 hits. Right now he is listed day-to-day with an illness, but it is an illness, so anticipating he'll be ready in time by the time week 11 starts there for you. And he has been okay, especially of late. So in your real deep leagues, he could be a okay option for you. Next one is Anthony Mantha over in Washington. Listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues there. And he has 6 points the last 5 games. And in those 5 games, he's a +5 and has 12 shots on goal. He's been pretty good of late, and he's up in that top 6. He was buried in the bottom 6 for a lot of the season there. If he stays in that top 6, he gets a little uptick in ice time. Could provide some unseen value for you. So now we'll move along to some defensemen that play Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Again, focusing more on the Thursday, Friday, but if you choose to get one of these players early in the week, you could also snag them for a Tuesday. On the back end, look at Brett Pesh from Carolina, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, playing second pairing, second power play unit. It's been pointless the last 4 games, but before that he put up 5 points the previous 5 games there. His offense has kind of stalled out a little bit, but he can be kind of streaky. He still does get a decent amount of shots on goal and blocks, so it's not like it's no value if he doesn't get you a point there. So depending how your league is formatted, you might be able to squeeze some value out of him. Another one in Carolina is Brady Shea, owned in 19% of Yahoo leagues. He also plays on that second pairing and second power play unit there. And he has 4 points the last 5 games. So pretty nice offense of late. 17 shots on goal and 6 blocks. So he's been pretty good of late. His offense has been streaky. He had that nice little spell about 10 games into the season there where he went on a nice run. Then he kind of faded off. Now he's on a nice run again. So hopefully that keeps going on into next week for you if you do choose to stream him and get some value out of him. The last one is Sean Dursey over in LA. Owned in 53% of Yahoo leagues. Plays second pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 1 point the last 5 games, so he has obviously cooled off. But before that, he put up 9 points the previous 6 games there. He does get a decent amount of blocks, okay hits for an offensive defenseman, so he does add some value there. But he is probably the most offensively gifted defenseman out of this little segment here. So now we'll move along to some forwards that play Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday there. We'll start off in Calgary. Look at Dillon Dube, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on that second pairing, second power play unit there. He's put up 8 points the last 9 games and also 18 hits. So that's pretty nice amount of hits there. He's been fairly consistent of late, as you can see there. And with the decent hit numbers, in a deeper league, definitely provide some value for you. Another one in Calgary is Michael Backlund, listed as a center, owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues. That's sure shot up of late. I think only like a week ago it was down to 9% there. But plays on the third line, second power play unit. He's been pretty good of late. 8 points the last 7 games there. 22 shots on goal, so getting a fair amount of shots. He is very streaky, so it is risky, but he's on a hot streak right now, so maybe he rides it into the Christmas break there, and you might be able to squeeze some value, especially in deeper leagues. Another one in Calgary is Adam Ruzicka, listed as center left winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the third line, second power play unit there. And he's put up 8 points his last 8 games, plus 5 in those 8 games, 13 shots on goal. He's been kind of a hidden kind of added offense in Calgary that you didn't see coming this year. He's been pretty good for a while now, so especially in your deeper leagues, because he still has pretty low ownership, you should be able to get some value out of him. Going over to Carolina, look at Seth Jarvis, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues, on the second line and on the second power play unit there. And he has 7 points the last 9 games, so pretty decent offense there. 19 shots on goal, 14 hits, and 6 blocks. Mind you, should mention out of those 14 hits, 7 of them were in one game. Not sure who is pissed off at that game, so don't think he's going to just smash them out of the park, but he will get you some hits there. He's not bad, not great in most categories. He should be a fairly safe option for you, and you should be able to squeeze some value out of him in most formats there. Another one in Carolina, Stefan Noesen, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the third line and up on the top power play unit there. He has 6 points the last 9 games, 19 shots on goal, and 18 hits in those 9 games. So he's been fairly consistent of late. It's just a player that kind of was on the fourth line for the longest time, bumped up to the third line, but still third line minutes you got to remember there. So I'd leave him for only real deep leagues as an option. Over in LA, look at Adrian Kempe, listed as center, left wing, and right wing. So do like that you can put him in any of your forward slots there. Owned in 58% of Yahoo leagues, centering that third line on the top power play unit. And he has 4 goals the last 4 games there with 12 shots on goal. He obviously has finish. You can see he was a 30-plus goal scorer last year. Kind of started out really slow this year, but 4 goals the last 4 games. Maybe it's a sign that he's going to turn it on and might be a fairly good streamer for you next week. Going over to Ottawa, look at Derick Brassard, listed as center left winger, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, centering that top line on the second power play unit. He has 5 points the last 8 games, so not the greatest offense, but you got to remember, he is filling in for Stützle for at least a week there, as Stützle's out with that injury, and with that, getting that bump in ice time, it's an intriguing play. I'm not sure how it's going to play out yet, but you might be able to get some value as he's going to have better line mates for at least a week here. Another one in Ottawa, Shane Pinto, listed as a center, owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues, centering that second line on the second power play unit there. And he has 3 points the last 3 games, so point per game over a small sample, but it's still a sample. 11 shots on goal, 5 hits, and 3 blocks in those 3 games. So he has been really on or off this year. He had that one hell of a stretch earlier on. Then it was just crickets for a while. Hopefully this 3 points in 3 games, maybe it's another sign of a good run for him. I still, with his streakiness, I'd leave him for pretty deep leagues only there. Going over to Philly, look at Kevin Hayes, listed as a center, owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues. On that top line, top power play unit there, and he has 10 points the last 11 games with 40 shots on goal, showing S-load of shots, 6 blocks. He's really, this year, he's been really consistent and one of the best streamers out there, even for up to 30, at least third of leagues. He should be considered not a keeper, but a steady piece on your roster, should say. So if he is available, you should be able to get some value out of him. Another one in Phillies, Travis Konechny, listed as a right winger, owned in 60% of Yahoo leagues, on the top line, top power play unit, and he has points in 7 of 8 games since coming back from injury there. So with that, you should definitely get some value out of him if you're able to fit him in your lineup if he's available in your league. Another one in Phillies, James Van Riemsdyk, listed as a left winger, right winger, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second line, up on the top power play unit. He's put up 5 points the last 3 games, so obviously he's not going to keep up that pace there. 9 shots on goal, but he's up on the second line. He's not down on the third line, so he's seen an uptick in being in the top 6, so uptick in ice time, getting some more power play minutes there. So in your deeper leagues, I wouldn't rely on him to be Mr. Savior by any means, but in your deeper leagues, with that uptick in ice time, you should be able to hopefully get some fantasy value out of him. Going over to Winnipeg, look at Cole Perfetti, listed as center, left wing, and right wing. Another one where you can put him in any forward slot. Really nice on a balanced schedule there. Owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the top line, second power play unit there. And he's been pointless the last 3 games, but before that he put up 9 points in the previous 8. The kid is talented, and he's up on that top line, so I don't think this pointless skid's going to last for that long. And with that, you should hopefully get some value out of him as a streamer next week. Next one's Adam Lowry, listed as a center, owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues, centering that third line, second power play unit there. And he has 11 points the last 11 games. 20 shots on goal, 17 hits, and 6 blocks. He's obviously not the most consistent player. He does get third line minutes, but he is on one heck of a run of late. So with that, if you want to ride the hot hand, might be an option for you, especially in deeper leagues with only that 11% ownership. The last one's Morgan Barron, listed as center, left winger in Winnipeg there. 0% owned, so available everywhere. Plays on that third line with Lowry, obviously kind of playing off Lowry with his little run, but he has 3 points the last 4 games with 4 blocks in there. So he is really up and down, so there is risk there, but in a real deep league, and he's been okay of late, you might be able to squint and find some value in him. That's it for this episode. We'll be out later in the week with just our midweek waiver wire episode. Won't be doing a weekend ads episode with Christmas break there, but We will be with our midweek waiver wire to hopefully find pieces to help you out more than just 1 week anyways. If you did like today's episode, remember to hit like, hit subscribe, remember that notification bell. If you're listening via podcast, remember to hit that heart, hit follow, hit subscribe, depending what platform you're watching it, listening to it on, should say. And we'll talk to you soon and be out with a bit. Talk to you soon there, fantasy owners.